Waitress Rosalynd Harris works 2 jobs in order to pay for her college tuition fees. During one busy weekend, a group of Texans walked into the restaurant she works in and instantly stuck out like a sore thumb. At first, she was nervous about serving them. However, when they left, she went over to the table and found that one of the men had written a note on the check. She couldn't believe what she was reading. There's no denying that Rosalynd Harris has a lot more to offer than just being a waitress. The 25-year-old works at Busboys and Poets in Washington, D.C. and knows exactly what she wants out of life. Just like the restaurant, Rosalynd is an avid supporter of social justice and stands up for what she believes in. However, when a group of Texans showed up at her restaurant, she wasn't so sure how to handle the situation. Although she enjoys working at Busboys and Poets for the most part, Rosalynd very much treats it like a means to an end. In fact, the young lady works 2 jobs just so she can pay off her tuition fees for her college years. Rarely does she get a chance to just kick back and relax. Her high level of activity can get the better of her sometimes, so the last thing she wanted was some customer drama. Funnily enough, the restaurant that Rosalynd works at, Busboys and Poets, was where the defining incident of this story took place. As previously mentioned, the cafe is a social justice-friendly environment with ethnic minority role models plastered on the walls. So you can imagine how Rosalynd reacted when a bunch of Texans with red caps showed up for lunch. However, it's not just the place that was integral to Rosalynd's story, it was the time when it happened. The weekend that the incident took place was during the presidential inauguration. However, this was also when the Women's March took place. Rosalynd was one of the 500,000 women who turned up to the march to stick up for what she believed in. After the busy weekend came to an end, many visitors still hung around the city for the week that followed. This included Jason White and his friends, who'd come all the way from Texas. That fateful lunchtime, Jason and his friends walked through the doors of Busboys and Poets. Just like that, the place went dead silent. Rosalynd was working that day and, just like everyone else, stared at the group in disbelief. There were 2 things that she assumed about her new customers. Firstly, they were from out of town. Secondly, they'd come to the country's capital to celebrate the inauguration of the president. Although you should never judge a book by its cover, Rosalynd was right in her assumptions. Jason White and his friends had come all the way from Texas. Also, they were thrilled by the election result and wanted to celebrate in the country's capital. Jason is extremely patriotic and puts his country before most things. In that respect, it made sense that he was casually walking around wearing a red cap. However, there was so much about Jason that the waitress didn't know. There is much more to Jason White than you might expect. The 37-year-old is a successful dentist who is a big family man and has a close-knit network of friends. When he came up to Washington, D.C. with some of those friends, they visited numerous sites such as the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier and the Arlington Cemetery, to name a few. While there's much more to Jason than just a red cap, he was simply wearing it in the wrong place. The first thing that caught everyone's attention was the fact that all of his friends were wearing red caps. Although Rosalynd didn't say anything to Jason, he quietly suggested to the others that they all took their caps off, just while they were in the restaurant. "We started getting looks," Jason said. "I told my friends you need to take your hat off. I don't want people to think we're coming in here to flaunt. We're just coming here to have lunch." As Rosalynd proceeded over to Jason's table, she gave them menus with a big smile, to which they reciprocated. Soon enough, they started cracking jokes with each other. "She started laughing when we said we were from West Texas, and she said, 'I can tell you're from the South,'" Jason said. "I said, 'What's your favorite thing on the menu?' She said, 'The avocado panini is delicious, and I love avocado, so I got that.' It was a relief for both of us." After breaking the ice a little, Jason was curious about the restaurant's history and calmly asked Rosalynd about it. She explained to them that it was named after poet Langston Hughes, a key figure in African American literature. Rosalynd told the Huffington Post that the group had never experienced a place quite like it. After taking their orders, Rosalynd let the group enjoy their lunches, and that was the end of their encounter. Or was it? Fast forward an hour later, and Jason left the restaurant with his friends, having enjoyed their lunch. Naturally, Rosalynd went over to the table to clean after them, collect any tip they may have left, and set up for the next customers. However, when she arrived at the table, she noticed that the check was covered in words. It was clear that one of the friends had written a note. She picked it up and started reading. After reading just a couple of words, Rosalynd quickly realized it was Jason who wrote the note, and it was specifically for her. The first part read as follows: "We may come from different cultures and backgrounds and may also disagree on certain issues." That alone was enough to pique the waitress's interest, and she couldn't help but read the rest. With each sentence that Jason wrote, Rosalynd's jaw dropped in disbelief. While Rosalynd was already intrigued by what Jason had written from the first sentence, it was what he wrote next that truly took her by surprise. "If everyone would share a smile and kindness like your beautiful smile, our country will come together as one people," he wrote. "Not race, not gender, just American. God bless." And if that wasn't enough, the waitress's life got turned upside down by what she saw at the bottom of the check. With the subtotal cost of the check coming in at $72.60, Rosalynd couldn't believe it when she saw that Jason had left her a 625% tip, which came to $450. Usually anything from 20 to 25% tip is a big deal for a waitress, but Rosalynd had never seen anything like this before in her life. Jason specifically gave her $450 as a nod to the 45th president who had recently been elected. But it was why Jason gave such a generous tip that took this story to another level. Jason recalls looking back at all those influential figures plastered on busboys and poets' walls. He also thought about how the inauguration and the Women's March coincided with each other. As far as he was concerned, these were two examples of people expressing their American values. He started to realize how much he had in common with other people, including Rosalynd. This inspired his incredible act of kindness to the waitress, who was lost for words. Both the note and the hefty tip were incredible gestures that made Rosalynd extremely emotional. However, there was no denying that the tip would go a long way in helping her to get where she wanted to be in life. Working 2 jobs in order to fund her college fees meant that $450 would make a huge difference. The note was extremely touching and unexpected, she told Today. Of course, the biggest part was definitely the amount of tip he left. This gesture also made Rosalynd look at people differently, especially those who have very different views to her. She assumed that people like Jason were more interested in taking care of themselves instead of others. "You automatically assume that they have ideas about you," she said. But Jason was more embracing than even some of my more liberal friends, and there was a real authenticity in our exchange. And it's not just Rosalynd whose views have changed. After doing what he did, Jason also discovered something that affected him in a deeply emotional way. "As I sat there, I thought about the entire weekend, and I thought, I don't know her, she doesn't know me, but if most Americans have a preconceived perception about people, then we're never going to get better," he said. The thought brought Jason to tears, and at that moment the dentist received a phone call he'd never forget. Soon enough, the story captured the imagination of millions and put both Jason and Rosalynd in the social consciousness. While she was in an interview, Rosalynd decided to surprise Jason by calling him on FaceTime. It was the first time the duo had interacted since that fateful encounter at Busboys and Poets. They finally got a chance to catch up after everything they'd been through. During that conversation, though, they both agreed that there was something about the story that people have misunderstood. People started to interpret the story in a way that both Rosalynd and Jason didn't agree with. "I hope that people just don't see it as this white guy helping this black girl," the waitress said. "The gracious gesture came from a place of compassion and love," Jason agreed, saying the following: "It's not about me and her, I just want people to take example and stop and think a little bit before they judge people on all sides." Both Rosalynd and Jason believe that the true heart of this story is the unconditional love for a stranger, whoever they may be. "We have to think about being better Americans. We have to look into ourselves and how we treat one another," he said. "If everyone did a little something to show respect, we can love one another." At the end of that heartfelt FaceTime call, Rosalynd extended a virtual hug to Jason, to which he responded by blowing her a virtual kiss. Despite becoming a viral hit, both Rosalynd and Jason didn't post any information about it on social media. In fact, it was one of the former's co-workers who took a photo of the receipt and put it on Twitter to begin with. The heartfelt note came at a time when some unhappy customers have written hateful notes to waiters and waitresses simply because of their differences. In this case, Jason flipped the script in the best possible way.